I do want to get just 3 questions that you would recommend people ask if they do a discovery call.
So I have a product called the Clarity Call Cheat Sheets where I actually give you a list of scripted questions, but I'm going to pull out kind of like the the themes. So number one, start with easy to answer things like, do you remember when you bought this product? Like, where were you? Things that are not emotional, things where there feels like there's no judgment. Because what that does is it gets them in the mindset of remembering things, and it doesn't feel like you're jumping right into the meat. It helps you to build rapport with them faster. So start with easy wins, easy answers, things that aren't going to
Mhm.
necessarily take a lot of work or thought on their part or analysis to answer. So start there. And always where I'm most curious is what was happening in your world that made you realize you had a problem, right? That one is huge because that tells you what the trigger event was. As a marketer, there's a lot of opportunity to marketing towards trigger events. It tells you what their thought process was. They kind of talk through the scenario. There's a lot of good insight there. Beyond that, again, with this idea of like kind of like rebuilding the journey. So it's like, okay, so once you bought this product, what do you hope it would do for you? How might life be different? That's when they're going to start explaining the job that they have to get done, right? Like, what was it that they couldn't do before that they thought this product would enable them to do? And why did that matter? And then I have what I call kind of like deep dive questions because, the whole idea of like, ask why 5 times, you're going to get to the
Yeah.
real answer.
Uh-huh.
Well, asking why 5 times is actually can feel pretty abrasive on the recipient's end because
Yeah.
it feels like you're like looking for them to like justify themselves. So instead of saying why, what I like to say is like, interesting. Oh, can you tell me more about that? Or if somebody uses emotional language, they say something, something was really exciting or something was awful, then you go, oh, like, it sounds like that there's a story behind that. Can you tell me more? And then you get this backstory of like, well, like with the person who done Justin Welch's thing, like before that, I'd like spent like all this money on this other course and it was garbage. I'm like, well, and like they'll tell you like the kind of like backstory, which is often where a lot of the goodness is. So getting them to go deeper without just saying, oh, and why, right? Because then it feels like they have to justify themselves. So you have to kind of phrase it in a way that invites a story.
And I'll share quickly my favorite question that I ask people in these discovery calls. And I know I've used some of yours. I don't think this is one of yours. So if I'm stealing yours, please say that this one came from you. I don't think it came from you. But what I will ask people is, so for me, the core sort of value that I'm offering people is I'm helping them get more clients from their content. So I want to know sort of what their current status of that is. So I will ask them on a
Mhm.
scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your performance of your content in terms of it getting you clients? But what actually matters, I don't really care what their number is because whatever number they say, I then go, well, why isn't that higher and why isn't that lower? And that's the part that unlocks amazing things
Yes. Yeah.
because they might say, oh, it's a 9, right? So in
Mhm.
theory, they don't really have a problem. But
Mhm.
when I say, why isn't it higher? They're telling me now the things, even though it's going well, there are still things that they want to improve. Right.
Mhm.
And the part, why isn't it lower? Even if they say it's a 2 and I say, well,
Mhm.
why isn't it lower? They're now telling me like, okay, there's some part of it that they feel good about. They might be wrong, by the way,
Mhm.
but at least from their perception, there's some part of it that they feel like is working or not working. And that question, whatever the value is that you offered people, like ask them how it's currently going for them,
Mm.
and
I
then
love
follow up with why isn't it higher and why isn't it
Mhm.
lower? And
Mhm.
they are literally, especially the why isn't it higher? They are telling me if you can help me do this, I will pay you money.
Yeah.
Like direct.
And the
Uh,
the genius behind this, it's not like like to caution people, don't go into this thinking it's a sneaky sales technique, but it's totally a sneaky sales technique.
Oh, I've
You
absolutely had discovery
yeah.
calls that at the end wound up in sales.
Oh,
No,
my
I
God.
wasn't saying it,
People are
you
talking
know.
themselves into your solution, and you don't have to like. And it's not a manipulative thing because like they're really thinking about, well, these are the problems, and here's why these other ways didn't work, and then they start getting really curious. Well, how might Josh's solution be different, right? Like
Mm.
how, like, and then gives you. It also allows you to shape the message of the conversation because if they're saying like maybe the thing that you think matters is like speed, right? You're like, I can get you from get your first, client, like your first lead to like conversation funnel up in like 2 days. And like maybe speed is not even a factor for them at all. Maybe their real problem they think is this. So it allows you to structure the conversation around what they care about. Yeah. It don't go into it just thinking it's going to get you sales, but it absolutely gets you stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. And I would even when I would do those calls, I would start it up front. I'd be like, look, I'm not pitching you. This
Mhm,
is not a sales call. This is not whatever. And by
mhm.
the end, they're asking me to tell them about how I can help them. Right.
I
So,
think
so cool. So
And if
before
they're
a
not,
quick
that's
side.
a signal too, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes the thing that they're describing that they're looking for is actually really different than what you do. And
Yep.
that can tell you a lot, right? It can tell you, oh, I'm
Yep.
not going after the right person, or oh, like this is totally the right person and they're misunderstanding my message because they don't think I can
Yeah.
do that. That's totally what I do, right?
Yeah.